I hereby call to order this meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee on November 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m. I am Linda Lukovsky, Chair of the School Committee. I want to welcome everybody here tonight. A reminder that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. I'm going to read our vision statement. We are a community of learners known for our unwavering commitment to meeting the needs of all students through the adoption of best practices and our active partnership with families in the wider community who are united in supporting the development of engaged, successful, responsive, resilient learners. Students will be well prepared to be ethical, empathetic, and contributing citizens. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Tonight was Kelly Smullen's last meeting, but she was unable to make it here. And I want to welcome Owen, starting next month. Owen Silva will be the representative from Raleigh. Congratulations. Brian, myself, and Narissa went down to MASC conference down the Cape. And the main reason we went down there was Narissa was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award that we had nominated her for. And I want to thank Narissa for everything that she does, and it was a well-deserved award. No. You want to say anything? Also, when we go down to the MASC conference, you know, we go to workshops. And it's interesting whenever we go to those workshops how far ahead Triton is from other districts of some of the things that we're doing. And I applaud our teachers, our staff, and the administration that do a great job in making sure that we're ahead of the curve. The next item is Portrait of a Learner, community member. Principal McCray will introduce students from the middle school, the first of our 5 schools and the first of the 5 roles of Portrait of a Learner. This month we will celebrate students who exemplified the October focus, which was community member. Mr. McCray.
Better? Okay. So thanks for having us. We had 3 recipients up until about 20 minutes ago. I got an email, and one of us could not make it, unfortunately, so 2 of them are here. Colton, why don't you go on up? This is Colton Barlow. He is the representative from the 8-3 team. Even as a new student to Triton this year, Colton Barlow has become a strong addition to the 8-3 team and our Triton community. He has made many friends with his kind and sociable nature. Colton is respectful to his peers and teachers alike, always greeting everybody with a friendly smile. He tries his best to do the right thing and encourages his peers to be a community based on trust, empathy, and mutual respect. From picking up a piece of paper in the hallway to helping a peer or collaborating on a task in class, Colton embodies all the qualities of being a positive community member. Congratulations. All right. Right here, it's fine. We didn't choreograph this, obviously. The 7-3 team acknowledges Clara Cooley as our outstanding community member. Clara has shown herself to be a caring individual from the very beginning of the year. She respects and appreciates the differences in others. She is always first to offer help when another student is in need. Just a few of the examples we've seen of our Clara helping to put dropped binders back together, offering a kind word of encouragement, and being a strong group leader in class. Recently, she took the initiative to create a Get Well Soon card for a student who suffered a medical emergency in the middle school lobby. Clara always greets you with a smile and a willingness to help make the classroom a better place and a positive community for all. Congratulations. You want me to read the other two, or? Okay. The 8-2 team would like to recognize Lacenzio Gerard as an outstanding community member. To help ensure everyone in our community feels welcomed, valued, and included, both in and out of class. Lacenzio frequently reaches out to other students. She is able to see things from other students' perspective and kindly encourages her peers to do the same. Her helpfulness, friendliness, and compassion are worthy of recognition. Lacenzio's empathy and compassion make her a truly exceptional and deserving recipient of the Community Member of the Month Award. And last, we have Kiana Bagonza, demonstrates respect and sense of community, and she actively listens and engages with different viewpoints in her community inside of school and out. She understands that a person's behavior can have a great impact on those around them and the wider community. As an example, recently while waiting for the bus in her neighborhood, she witnessed a tree had fallen over, blocking the driveway of a neighbor she did not know. Instead of ignoring it, Kiana moved over and piled up the wood herself so the neighbor could get out of the driveway. This is all while she was alone and no one was watching. Kiana showed great kindness, integrity, and great sense of community with this act. One of the many reasons she was our outstanding community member for Team 7-2. Congratulations.
And just to clarify, so thank you to Mr. McCray in the middle school for the maiden voyage of the new way we're doing Student of the Month. So the certificates that were handed out by Chair Lakowski say Student of the Month still, and then acknowledge that you'll remember we are rotating each of the 5 POL roles. Started with community member for the month of October, and Al agreed to tee it up and be the first school. I think their current role is we're focusing on being a good communicator. And Pine Grove is coming right in December, and then we're going to take a pause for the holidays over the month of December, and then kick it up again in January. So thank you to the middle school. Thank you to the 2 recipients who are here tonight, as well as the 2 who were not able to be here. Thank you for being such incredible role models as good community members. So, need pictures.
The next item is our student representative report. School Committee Student Representative Foster Campbell will now give his report.
Hello, thanks for having me once again. Recently in the school, what we have going on is the Spirit Week. So that includes the Spirit Week dance and the Spirit Week school celebration on Wednesday, the half day, where we get to play tug of war and events just to help with school spirit. In the community service section, we have a recent community service happening, which is the Senior Tea, where we host seniors from around the area to have a tea time here in the library where normally the band plays. And included in the Spirit Week, everything that goes on the Spirit Week, we have our school musical opening tomorrow night at 7. I am in my costume, as it is. On the DECA side, for Distributive Educational Club of America, we had just started testing, so for each personal event, such as, it's a wide range. And that's mainly all I have, except for I did get a chance to attend the MASDR conference, a lobbying group for bills like maybe like phone policies and such. And during our agenda, we reached a conclusion to lobby for a financial literacy program throughout that, so it's universal throughout Massachusetts, and also regarding the phone policy, both ways, undecided how everybody leans. And that's all I have, and I will sadly having to be leaving shortly as I have rehearsal to get back to.
Foster, can I just say, so that was, you have that opportunity as the school committee representative, so it's you and all of your counterparts from across the state who are the student council elected committee member. So, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Foster. Does anybody have any questions for Foster?
I have one. If you were going to give Ranked a rank right now, what grade would it get?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, if you were going to give Ranked, the play, a grade right now, what grade would it get? The answer is A+, Campbell, Foster.
I don't know, I'm trying to curve it a
Oh,
little
okay,
bit.
all right.
You know, I'd say about an A+.
Okay, all right.
Plus plus.
Excellent. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is oral communications from the public. Members of the public may address the committee for up to 3 minutes, longer with the permission of the chairperson. The committee will not engage in discussion on topics raised during public comment, but may choose to add the topic to a future agenda. This agenda segment will be limited to 15 minutes. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the committee? And as much as we would love the students to stay, if you guys need to leave, please feel free to leave, as well as you, Foster.
I don't want to leave.
Thank you.
Luck at practice.
The next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains 3 donations tonight. Thank you to Richard Eaton Charitable Foundation for donating $6,000 to the Triton Athletics, to Ron and Betsy Tatro for the donation of 2 speakers to the high school, and the Triton Educational Foundation for a patio by the stadium and heaters for the outbuilding. The consent agenda includes 1 overnight and out-of-state field trip request. Triton Middle School requests planning permission for 8th graders to go to Philadelphia and New York City, April 7th through the 10th, 2026. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? The next item is new business. Would any members like to raise additional items for inclusion on a future agenda?
I would like to revisit the discussion that we had about the cell phone policy trials that are going on, because my understanding was that we were going to come back and discuss it again in December before we made the switch over to the full day, and I just wanted to make sure that that was still the case, or if I was misunderstanding it.
Okay, if we talk about it now first. Yeah, so that is the plan. It might not be December, but before we would shift to a full bell-to-bell, right? Lock it up at first period and give it back at the end of the day. That would come back to you to approve a new pilot. And I don't believe we're ready to propose that. It's not on the agenda, so
No.
I don't know.
No, I don't think
Okay.
we should do that.
Okay.
Yep, okay. The next item is the DCC meeting update. The November DCC meeting was at the Salisbury Public Library, and it was an update on school business, followed by school finance presentation. I want to just thank Narissa, Brian, and Rich for the presentation. I'm always in awe of how lucky we are to have them with their deep knowledge of Chapter 70, as well as the state assessments and school financing. The next DCC is January 29th. The next item is the 2025 MCAS and Accountability Report. Dr. Anna Bates is going to walk through the comprehensive accountability data from 2024-2025, including MCAS, Vocal, iReady, and School Quality Measures Community Survey data.
So if I could just cue this up, there's going to be a lot of Anna, so you won't have to hear from me tonight. But just, I want to thank Anna. So I had, it was originally going to happen in October, and then October got really wild for a lot of reasons, including an on-site DESE visit that we've never had before. But the hope was to, rather than each fall, you have an accountability report, which is generally just our MCAS data. And we look at our accountability ratings. The goal was to, what I asked her to do was put together a presentation that kind of aggregates all of the data. We now have, the school quality measure data. We have vocal data. We actually, iReady's not included in here because there's already a lot of information. But along with the MCAS to give more, including, I don't want to steal a thunder, but as far as attendance as well. So it just, right, the concept is to provide a more global snapshot of each of our schools in the district as a whole. Because again, MCAS is a data point, and it's an important data point, but it's not the only data point. So I want to start by saying thank you to Anna for the work she did on this, as well as all the other presentations and things on the agenda tonight, as well as the principals for being here tonight as we go over this data.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so the way that I've set up this presentation is to first describe the metrics that we're going to be using to sort of measure what success looks like for us. Then we'll take a look at district trends and looking at those measures, followed by the trends at each school, and then just wrap up at the end with how all of this data sort of fits in with our processes we use when we're using data for improvement efforts. So the goal here is to really, Brian said this, to develop a snapshot of where the district is at any time, or where the district is right now and where each school is. Really focusing on what's a student experience in each setting based on a number of different data points. And I do want to thank Michael Estuccio for giving me this idea about kind of I was struggling with what order do I present this in, and thinking about we want to present in a way where we know we're meeting children's like most basic needs first, that they need to feel safe, they need to feel supported, they need to have positive relationships and a sense of belonging. So for that reason, I've started with school quality measures and vocal, leading into attendance, because if we create those environments where students want to be in school, students are then in seats in front of and working with teachers and with their classmates, and then we'll see academic achievement and growth, and then wrap it up with accountability. So we'll be looking at these measures for the district first, followed by each of the 5 schools.
Is it possible to dim the lights at all in here, because I cannot read those slides really well? Maybe I need better glasses, but. Okay,
think Patrick's
glad it's not just me.
He can do it.
Nope. Yep.
Yeah, better?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. So I want to give you a little short overview of each data source that we're going to be looking at. So for school quality measures, we're just focusing in on the category of school culture. And school culture measures the degree to which the environment is safe, caring, and academically oriented. It considers factors like bullying, student-teacher relationships, and then how students value their own learning. School culture is then separated into 3 subcategories: safety, relationships, and academic orientation. So when we look at SQM data, that's the area that we're going to look at. Next is vocal data. And vocal is the annual survey that is sponsored by DESE, and where students in grades 4, 5, 8, and 10 are asked to share their views on culture and learning. And we had, let's see, in 2025, we had 531 students participate in this survey. So we'll be looking at an overall school climate measure, as well as it looks at sort of the domains of engagement, safety, and environment. As far as measuring attendance, we'll be looking at our chronic absenteeism rates, which is defined as the percentage of students missing 10% or more of their days. And as we've spoken a lot about in recent conversations about attendance, that includes both excused and unexcused absences. All right, so for academic achievement and growth, this is going to be a presentation of MCAS data, so academic achievement and growth as measured by MCAS. Achievement as measured by the percentage of students who are meeting or exceeding expectations on MCAS, and growth measured by the average student growth percentile. That is the measure of students' academic progress over time as compared to students with similar testing histories. So I'll probably come back to this a few times, but the average SGP for moderate growth is, we're looking between 41 and 60. All right, in terms of accountability, we're really going to be focusing mostly on that criterion referenced, where it looks at how we are doing in relation to the targets that have been set for us based on our own historical performance. So accountability measures are based on MCAS growth and achievement, access, chronic absenteeism rates, and then for high school, we also advanced coursework completion, graduation rates, dropout rate, and then extended engagement rate as well. Okay, so we're going to start off with district-wide trends in the school quality measures data. So these indicators, these are all the subcategories in the school quality measures category of school culture. So the bars are showing you the measurement for Triton, and the line is the benchmarks that are set for each category. So you can see we're just about benchmark for student physical safety, a little under for academic challenge, above benchmark for student sense of belonging, below, a little bit below for student emotional safety and value of learning, and then just a little bit above benchmark for student-teacher relationships. So this is taking in account data from all across the district. For vocal, and a lot of this data is really in the aggregate, so it's pulling a lot of information in. So certainly if you have any questions about specific measures, I could answer them. But this is our vocal data for the district. The state is in light blue, Triton is dark blue, and you can see for overall school climate, and then the categories of engagement, safety, and environment. Students are reporting their views on culture and learning to be very similar to the way students are reporting them across the state. Okay, so looking at attendance, the bars are showing you the different groups of students, and the height of the bars relates to the change we saw in the rates of chronic absenteeism between 2024 and 2025. So the higher the bar, the greater the positive change in attendance for each of those particular groups. So I'm so excited about this attendance data because we far exceeded the targets that were set for us in almost every group of students at every school. So I just, again, want to recognize that work of our attendance group that Shannon led last year, that really worked to develop, to implement, to work with students, to work with families, because you can see the impact of those efforts with the attendance. Like students are at school more often than they were before. Particularly our lowest performing group of students, in some of the, when we look at attendance data for some of the schools, you're going to see that students with disabilities had a significant change in, for the positive in their attendance as well. Yes?
On this, where it says the change from 2020, is it percent change? Is it number of students change? Is it what type of change is that?
So if our attendance rate for all students last year was 10%, it has then changed by, we are at 13. Did I do that right? Am I going in the right direction? No. It improved by 3.7. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, so for some of them, we had, our target was only a small, our target was only a 2.5%, or 2.5, and then we far exceeded it with like 10 in some of these areas. So moving on then from attendance to academic data, this is our academic achievement in English language arts, and so this does take into account every tested grade level, so 3 through 8 as well as 10. You can see on the left-hand side that is performance over time, so we've have an increase in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations between 2024 and 2025, and that's a greater increase than we saw at the state level. On the right-hand side, you'll see the average percent correct by category. So reading and language tend to be our strongest areas, although we have seen significant improvement in essay and in the category of writing, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on. So this is still ELA on the left. You can see this broken down, the achievement broken down by grade level, so percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations at each grade level. On the right, you can see the average student growth percentile by grade level, and I just want to highlight that 67 is a high growth, so our highest SGP came in grade 5 for ELA. So just a little bit more about writing, because this is another example of, I think, educators coming together, collaboratively developing a plan, and then really doing the hard work to put it in place, and then we see impact from it. So this started with our work with the Implementing High Quality Instructional Materials Grant, where we were partnered with Instruction Partners a few years ago, and continued working with that consultant, Michelle Seal from Instruction Partners, and what her role really has been is to help us increase our own capacity to strengthen implementation here. So over the past 2 summers, she's been working with groups of grade level teachers to strengthen writing instruction. I think even though we adopted CKLA, which is meeting expectations in all areas, teachers immediately noted, you know what, we're going to have to do some more work here. So what we did is we pulled those teachers together. They made instructional changes. We rolled them out at the beginning of each year, and then had multiple opportunities for monitoring progress and making adjustments to that. So you can see over the last 3 years that incremental increase in achievement. So I thought this was really exciting. Mathematics also an exciting trend here. You can see on the left-hand side the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations. So post-pandemic, it is just increasing every year and moving from below the average of the state to significantly above. On the right, you can see that graph showing performance over time. So in addition to increasing the percentage of students in meeting and exceeding, we're reducing the percentage of students who are in that not meeting expectations category. And once again, this data is for all tested grade levels. So here you have achievement and growth, once again broken down by grade level. We have some, and so moderate growth is 41 to 60, and we're well within that range here. We have some areas of higher growth, grade 5 again for mathematics, and then also grade 6, with an average student growth percentile of 63. Science, technology, and engineering, a little bit of a different pattern here. You can see that there's kind of some inconsistency in the percentage of students who are meeting or exceeding expectations over the years. It increases, decreases, increases, decreases again. I think what has been fairly stable is the percentage of meeting and exceeding in the 5th grade tends to be higher than in the 8th and the 10th grade. While I'm not necessarily using this time to talk about improvement planning, because that will come in January, I will say that we had stage 1 of the curriculum review process last year, and that group elected to explore high-quality instructional materials for K through 8, so that is something that we are actively doing right now. And then in terms of district accountability, we have the same sort of accountability as last year, that our overall classification is not requiring assistance or intervention, and then we are making substantial progress toward targets. Within all of this accountability data for the district, I did want to share some highlights. First, that as a district, we were recognized as one of 63 districts in the state that surpassed pre-pandemic levels of achievement for either ELA or math. Ours was for mathematics, but we also did that for science, technology, and engineering. We have far exceeded our targets for EL proficiency in grades 3 through 8. Our target rate was 38.5%, and our actual rate was 61.3%. And then we exceeded our targets across the district in reducing chronic absenteeism for all students, our lowest performing group, high needs, EL, former EL, low income, and students with disabilities. We are still on the what they call the recovery path, so still working towards achieving our pre-pandemic levels of achievement in ELA. But we're improving. We're just improving below the targets that are set for us, so moving in the right direction. We did have a decline in science achievement in 2025 in grades 3 through 8, as well as at the high school level, and a decline in ELA and in math at the high school level as well. So anytime you have a drop in the average scaled score, that gives you 0 points towards your accountability. All right, before I move on to school trends, are there any questions about the measures or district data? No? Okay. So we're going to start off with Newbury Elementary, and starting off with the school quality measures. So school safety is at the approval rating. Relationships, and because we've talked a lot about the importance of student sense of belonging and student-teacher relationships, that is also at the approval rating. Academic orientation is a little bit below approval, and that is, as I said before, it's made up of 2 components, academic challenge. So students, and that is at the approval rating, the academic challenge piece. But it's the value that students are giving learning that's in the growth area. So combined, that puts us a little below approval. In that pattern of students valuing learning being a little bit below, the academic challenge is reflected in all of the schools' data. All right, so vocal. So just to give you a little context to this vocal data index is they divide the student, so student score distribution is divided into 4 different categories using the benchmark scores of 30, 50, and 70. So the 4 categories are the least favorable, which is that little one at the top, which is less than or equal to 30, somewhat favorable, 31 to 50, favorable, 51 to 70, and then the most favorable is greater than 70. So you can see with Newbury, the scores are very similar, related to school culture and learning between 2024 and 2025. So moving on to our attendance data. Once again, the higher the bar, the greater the change for the positive. So we saw some great gains in attendance for the lowest performing group of students, high needs, low income, and students with disabilities, as well as exceeding targets for all students. Okay, so MCAS achievement and growth looks a little bit different at the school level than the data I shared at the district level. For all of these slides, the gray bars will be the percentage of the state that is meeting and exceeding expectations. The light blue color is percentage of the school, and then the dark blue is student growth percentile. So some highlights from this data, so some that you can kind of see in here and some that's embedded within this, is that 84% of students in grade 6 are meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA. So that's a really high number. Average student growth percentile for grade 6 in ELA was 76. So a lot to celebrate there in terms of growth and achievement. We also had that increase in achievement in writing, which revealed itself in this data between 2023 and 2025. That percentage of students who were meeting or exceeding expectations in writing went from 29% to 51%. And then you can see this on here that the science achievement is 24 points above the state average. And then in terms of overall accountability, also not requiring assistance or intervention and meeting or exceeding the improvement targets that are set. For Pine Grove, the school quality measures data, it looks similar. You can see it is at approval for safety, at approval for relationships, and then just below approval for academic orientation. Once again, the academic challenge was noted as the approval rating, but the value of learning is just below that at growth. For vocal at Pine Grove, we saw a slight shift towards less favorable ratings between 2024 and 2025, but still leaning toward the most favorable and favorable. And absenteeism data is a little bit inconsistent for different student groups. We saw about no change for all students, students with high needs or students with disabilities, so about the same as it was last year. We exceeded targets for our lowest performing group of students, and then we actually declined and had a higher absentee rate for our students with low income. And we haven't quite figured it all out yet, but it's on our radar to really stay focused on students with low income and attendance. For academic achievement and growth, you can see that we are exceeding Pine Grove exceeding the state in percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in all 3 disciplines, with student growth percentiles in that moderate or high category. Again, we have that same reflection of an increased achievement in writing. So in 2022, 27% of students were meeting or exceeding expectations in writing. To 2025, we're up to 47%. So a big increase there. And so then something I want to highlight here is that 5th grade ELA at Pine Grove School had an average SGP of 81, which is in the very high category, but it's the highest that you can be placed in. So huge growth for students in grade 5. So for accountability data, not requiring assistance or intervention, making substantial progress towards targets. Some additional things I'd like to highlight is that average SGP is in the 50s or 60s for every student group in ELA and in mathematics. Pine Grove is on the path forward, so has exceeded pre-pandemic levels of achievement in mathematics and in ELA. An area of focus is going to be supporting attendance for students with low income. I would like to also note that Pine Grove has just been recognized by DESE for achievements in both ELA and in mathematics. has been invited to present at a Celebrating Academic Success Conference on December 3rd. So Nicole will be bringing a small team with her to share what they've been doing over these past years that has contributed to that success. So I think it's just a great testament to all of the educators that are part of that Pine Grove community. Moving on to Salisbury, starting off with physical safety. Physical safety is just below the approval level, and emotional safety is in the watch category, so a little bit lower. Relationships at approval, so the importance of student-teacher relationships and belonging. And then academic challenge was close to approval, and student value learning was in the watch category, so it's reflecting the same pattern we saw at the other schools. Vocal data saw a shift in overall favorability between 2024 and 2025. So an increase in the percentage of those that were in that favorable and most favorable, and then a reduction by 2% for those in the least favorable category. Chronic absenteeism, exceeding targets that were set by the state for all of the different for all students together, but also all of the different student groups that are listed there as well. So MCAS achievement and growth. Once again, state is in gray, the Salisbury Elementary is in light blue, student growth percentile is in dark blue. I would say most notable is an increase in student growth percentile in math over the last 3 years. So we've seen consistent increases. In 2023, average student growth was 49. In 2024, it was 54. And in 2025, it's 60. So we're seeing continual growth year after year. Similar with pattern with writing is that we saw an increase in the percentage of students who are meeting or exceeding expectations in writing by 5% between 2024 and 2025. So that work is that work that all the educators did across the district is revealing itself in each school. So overall classification, not requiring assistance or intervention, making substantial progress towards targets. Just a few things that from the accountability data that I wanted to note is that for some of the student groups, Salisbury is on a path forward. So for instance, in science, technology, and engineering for achievement with students with low income and high needs, we're on the path forward, so exceeding pre-pandemic levels for those student groups. Same for math and ELA for students with disabilities. So the 2025 data shows that they are above where they were pre-pandemic. Exceeding the target in chronic absenteeism across all student groups. We definitely still need to focus on ELA instruction for all students, but we are improving. We're going in the right direction, but just improving just below the targets that the state's setting for us. I also want to acknowledge that Salisbury Elementary was just recognized by DESE as well for effective use of grant funding to build and sustain co-teaching across the school. Having a measurable impact on students and really fostering a professional culture with a focus on growth. So they'll be sending a small team over to Salisbury to observe those teachers in practice, meet with some educators as well. And their goal is to really uncover what it is SES has been doing over these past few years, which have had that impact, and then be able to share that with other schools across the Commonwealth. So. Good work, Salisbury. Okay, moving on to the middle school. For school quality measures, physical safety is at the approval level, but student emotional safety is in watch. I don't want to steal Al's thunder because he'll bring it in January, but they have an improvement plan based on this element that they worked to develop when we were doing some work with with school quality measures over the summer. Student sense of belonging is strong, and that is something that the middle school's been working on, and you can see that reflected here. And then, as we saw with the other schools, that academic challenge is higher than the way that students value learning. Comparing 2024 and 2025 vocal data, we do see a shift toward the least and somewhat favorable from the favorable and most favorable. For attendance data, great sort of changes for the positive in reducing chronic absenteeism for all students, as well as for each of the student groups shown there. For academic achievement, you can see we have 4 tested areas here at the middle school. So we have ELA on the left, followed by mathematics, science, technology, and engineering, which is in grade 8, as well as civics in grade 8. This past year was the first year of the civics MCAS. So we had a 5% increase in students meeting and exceeding expectations in math between 2024 and 2025, so that's increasing. I did want to note, and I know this has probably been shared before with updates on school improvement planning, but a few years ago when the middle school had that goal related to stats and probability and 35% of students were meeting or exceeding expectations, that is up to 63% of students meeting and exceeding expectations. Kelly Buckley, the math specialist, has done a lot of work to not only like promote that change, but then sustain that change in instruction. We had a slight increase between for students meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA between 2024 and 25, going from 43 to 46% of students, but a much more significant increase in grade 7, which is worth noting. Between those 2 years, we went from 36% of students meeting and exceeding expectations in ELA to 49%. So that's a big jump in 1 year. We have seen a decrease in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in science and technology and engineering over the last 3 years. One of the reasons why we're looking into, are we using the most high quality resource for us? And then civics, just below state level for percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations. So also not requiring assistance or intervention, making moderate progress towards improvement targets. I think something to note is the relatively high or high moderate SGP for all student groups in mathematics. Every student group was at 50 or above. ELA achievement for our lowest performing group and for our high needs group has exceeded pre-pandemic levels. And then actually in science, technology, and engineering, even though the overall achievement is down, achievement for high needs and students with disabilities is higher than it was pre-pandemic. All right, on to the high school. Similar pattern here with school quality measures data. The physical safety was rated higher than the emotional safety. The sense of belonging, that component of relationships, was a little closer to approval than the student-teacher relationships. Academic orientation is in the watch category, and once again, that's composed of academic challenge as well as students' value of learning, following the same pattern as the other schools, in which they're rating challenge, that they're challenged more by their teachers and a lower value to academic learning. Vocal, we have an increase in favorability between 2024 and 2025. We're looking at 74% who are in that favorable or most favorable category. For chronic absenteeism, we met the target that was set for us for all students, exceeded it, significantly exceeded it for our lowest performing group, high needs, and low income students as well. For achievement and growth as measured by MCAS, we are just about at just above the state level for ELA with average student growth at 41. We are a little bit above in mathematics, moving from 43% of students meeting or exceeding expectations in 2024 to 48% in 2025, which I think is notable because that was a pilot year. We were piloting 2 different curricula and we still saw an increase in student achievement. So we're above the state, just above the state in ELA and math, slightly below the state in achievement in biology. And then growth is in the low 40s for both ELA and mathematics. So not requiring assistance or intervention, moderate progress toward target. So we are, like some of the other schools, high school is improving, but below the improvement targets. So trending in the right direction, just not as much has been set for us for growth in ELA and mathematics. We have some groups that have surpassed their pre-pandemic achievement rates. In math, that's our lowest performing group, high needs, low income. And then in ELA, low income and high needs students as well. We are meeting or exceeding targets in chronic absenteeism for different groups, and then exceeding targets for the 4-year graduation rate. All right, so lots of data, data at the district level, data at the school level, and I just want to come back to this is a snapshot of where each school is based on various data points. I just want to share that all of our improvement planning is based on the collection and the collaborative analysis of data. We use it at the district level, the school level, in implementation teams, at the classroom level. And I think one of the things that is a great strength for us is really valuing multiple data points, including student perception data. That this is not just a presentation of where we scored on MCAS. This also includes the student voice as measured by school quality measures or as measured by vocal as well. So we take all of this into account in different structures, oftentimes are engaging in collaborative conversations using protocols, making observations, and from that inferences, and then trying to define what are the causes of some of the patterns that we're seeing in the data, followed by action planning and assessment of impact. So this is a iterative process, and that we're using this at all times in all different areas of our work. So that was a lot of information, but does anyone have any questions about school data or district-wide data? Larissa?
I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but I'd like to request a copy of this presentation and to put the discussion in the December agenda, because I can't grasp this. I'm really sorry.
I know, it's so much, and I do struggle every year with how much data to provide.
I think it's great information. It's just the way my brain thinks. I get stuck on a piece that you say, and I want to go back 3 slides and look at something that you said before, and then you're 2 slides ahead of where you were, and I just struggle, I guess, with a presentation like that without having seen the material up front.
Okay, and I do apologize for that. We were in a bit of a, I was in a
I know
bit
you're
of a
in time
crunch with getting this together for you, but yes, so.
And if the rest of the committee doesn't feel that way, feel free to ask your questions tonight, and I can go to Anna independently. I know, we've had discussions before, so I don't mind doing that.
No, I agree. I was taking notes and I need to like go back and forth. And it's not your presentation. Your presentation was amazing. I just don't know if I don't think that quick past 7 p.m., but I need like a full minute
Yeah, yeah.
to really kind of dig in because it's so much data and it's so valuable. But I'm with Narissa. I was like typing something and then you were 3 slides ahead and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I missed
Yeah.
something. So I just want to take a minute to look if you don't mind.
Okay, we will table this for December.
So we'll send you the presentation now as well as attach it to
Yep.
the December 10th agenda. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions or? Thank you, Anna.
So I just have to say, I looked up in the window and Foster Campbell had left and was just, probably couldn't hear you, but was watching this presentation through the window up the top. And I just have to say, like, the dedication of a student rep that can't even hear what's going on, and was here just to make sure he gets the data is, I just wanted to call that out because that's
Trying
amazing.
to subtly wave as he's like,
He was trained by Owen, who was exceptional, our last student rep. The next item is the middle school team's status report. The committee will now receive a report on the current teaming structure at the middle school, which has adjacent over time with a declining overall enrollment.
so just to cue this up, this actually came out of your workshop in September. And as we were looking to the year ahead, I mean, obviously it's not, as we've talked about with the building committee, we've talked about what this building is going to be someday, if it's bringing 6th grade up here or if it's a 7 through 12 combined campus. And so the question, the starting point was, so what currently exists now? So what I asked Anna to do was just put together just a basic snapshot of what exists today. Obviously, there's a little kind of framing why teaming, as well as if teams were to not happen, what would be in place. So that's the kind of the genesis of this. I don't assume that this is a, hey, quick presentation and you make any decisions tonight. Certainly, hopefully we can answer questions, and obviously Al's here if there are questions specific about what exists specifically as we go through the coming years and make some decisions. So with that.
Here I am again. So the purpose of middle school teams is to really set up smaller learning communities for students. And I thought when drafting a update on middle school teaming, it would be important to understand where, oh, I still have that up. Sorry about that. Let me get rid of that. To know where students are coming from. So at NES, there are about 48 students who are supported by 3 core academic teachers at the 6th grade level. At Pine Grove, 57 students also learning in a 3-teacher model. And at Salisbury, we have 2 groups of students of approximately 35 students who are each supported by 2 academic teachers. So students are coming to the middle school from a 6th grade with a smaller group of students and a smaller number of teachers who are supporting them in core academics. So the goal of implementing a team structure at the middle school is to ensure that all the students that are coming from 3 different schools receive that, I think, a high level of academic, of social and emotional support during the time when they're transitioning from a school which maybe even they're coming together with different groups of students, they're coming to a different community sometimes, and to support them through that transition. So in terms of what the teaming looks like at the middle school, students in grades 7 and 8 are placed on one of 2 teams, so there are 2 teams in each grade level, of approximately 75 students. Each team has 4 core academic teachers, 1 special education teacher, and then 1 instructional assistant. The team classrooms are located in close proximity to each other in the same hallway. It fosters collaboration, builds supportive relationships, I think, amongst the staff as well as between students and staff, and then also helps support consistent expectations. With the current schedule and the teaming structure, a student would attend 5 or 6 classes in close proximity on one of these hallways, and then would go off team or leave that part of the school for either 1 or 2 electives during the day and also for lunch. Additional supports and collaboration, so the Essentials program and the REACH program are each connected to one team in each grade level, allowing the educators in those programs to participate in the team meetings. Educators meet every other week to plan team-based activities, to coordinate instruction and assessments, to discuss student strengths and areas of concerns, and then one member of the school's student support team, which includes the principal, assistant principal, guidance counselor, and social worker, participates in those team meetings. The idea is that educators are collaborating, they're sharing with each other strategies that they've found successful with students, that sharing interventions that they've found successful with students before referring a student to SST, really promoting like proactive adjustments and informed support for students before moving to interventions. So I think without the current teaming structure, students would potentially travel to all 4 hallways within the school to attend their core classes and their electives. Educators would teach a variety of different student groups and would no longer share a common set of students with their colleagues who are around them. Without that teaming structure, there wouldn't be any dedicated time to plan those relationship building activities, coordinate projects and assessments, or to collaborate on effective strategies. So I think what this would look like is students would transition from an elementary model where they either have 2 or 3 or 4 core academic teachers in one hallway and a relatively small group of students into a traditional junior high or high school model that would offer less consistency and connection among their teachers and their peers. Any questions about this? Yes, Narissa.
So I have a couple. So am I understanding correctly that all of the students supported by the Essentials and REACH program are all, so they're all either 7-2 or 7-3, but not across the 2?
I'm not
Does
sure.
that make sense? Like,
Okay.
the way I'm reading it is it seems like 7-2 has all, or 7-3 has all of the Essentials and REACH supported students.
No.
No.
No, I'm sorry. That's not true. They're on one team, but they're not as all Essentials and REACH are on one team. I'll let.
So you're right. For instance, the REACH program, those students go to the 8-3 team and the 7-3 team, and they have for a number of years. So those teachers have had a lot of PD and discussions and about those trauma-sensitive students and those kind of things. So those teachers are very used to those kind of students, and we don't have. And where downstairs has Essentials program, they go to 7-2 and 8. So they're because they're both grades in each program. So those teams are used to having that profile of student over the years. So, like I said, they've had a lot of professional development and, the social worker from the REACH program goes to their team meetings. So they're always having those conversations and working with those types of kids, with those profiles.
Okay. And does that limit, I mean, if you ever had to remix teachers across teams, does that limit how you can configure? Or do they just kind of stay the same in part because of?
Well, a student right now is, or like a REACH students in 7th grade is assigned to the 7-3 team. They have a 7-3 homeroom and all that.
Yep.
If we were to schedule a building junior high-ish without teaming, they would get a schedule like any other student.
Yeah.
But they'd still be able to access the REACH program, but they'd probably have to move more around the building.
I think I was thinking more of the teacher side, like if you wanted to reorganize sort of the teams and swap subject matter, are you limited on?
I mean, we could crafts kids' schedules particular to different teachers, yes, we could probably do that to some extent.
Are you talking about the training for teachers?
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
provide additional training, right? So
Okay.
certainly, any programming, as you look across the schools, we invest in educators with specific needs. Certainly, some educators are more highly trained in certain programs and such. So yes, if we move the team, so if we shifted up 7-3, 7-2, 8-3, 8-2, we would have to backfill with additional training if an untrained educator became part of that team.
Okay, all right. I think that makes sense. And educators meet biweekly to plan team-based activities. Is there any meetings across the entire team? Like is all of the 8th grade staff?
So grade level, not team.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
No, if they request it, we've done that. We do that with content, for instance. Like if all the science teachers want to get together, they come to me and we work out some coverage and they do that. We've not had like the entire 8th grade teaching team have a meeting, no.
Okay. I'm just curious, part of the, definitely something I hear every year is the expectations are different, team to team. So I'm just curious if there is a chance for those teachers
We do talk about that in our faculty meetings with the entire staff, because the same thing with 7th grade too. So we do have those conversations, grading, homework, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we do have those conversations with the entire staff.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So upstairs teams and downstairs teams. I don't know which is which. Two or
We just
three.
do it by floor. So
Yep.
the second floor is 8-2, 7-2, the third floor is 7-3.
They do not combine, so the entire 7th grade will not meet to discuss curriculum, behaviors, or anything. Once you're assigned to a team, that team is kind of encapsulated and runs on its own. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, as
Okay.
students are assigned to a team, all their classes.
Well, I meant the teaching side. So
Te-
those
yeah.
teachers, they're kind of like in their own capsule upstairs and then in their own capsule downstairs, and they
Correct.
don't come together to,
But they do for content collaboration, though.
Content, yes.
Yeah, so they do, so all, like, at the last PD day, they all got together with their
okay.
department. So they are doing work, common work for, across a content area. So like social studies teachers came together, math teachers worked together quite a bit. ELA teachers, I think each department got together at the last one.
Yes.
But they also are able to request coverage to, I don't understand scheduling nearly as well as Al does, but I think the priority since the pandemic has been making sure there's dedicated time for interdisciplinary teams to have those meeting times, and then coverage is provided for the content teams to do that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to figure out
And-
how this works.
So one other thing, because I just had one before I came here, we have team leaders. Each team has a leader, and we meet every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks, and we talk about things like that. Certain amounts of homework that are being given out. We want to keep that equitable because there's sometimes a perception one team gives more than the other. We talk about, when sometimes I get complaints about too many assessments going on, can we talk to the team members more frequently about, I'm going to have a test on Tuesday, could no one else have a test on Tuesday? Those kind of things. So we meet and talk about those, and then generally just building wide things. So, and then those team leaders go back and have their team meetings, and they talk about those kind of things with the rest of the team.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm not sure how to phrase this, I guess, but in those situations where the team leaders are getting together with administration, who's bringing up those topics? Like I guess I'm wondering like who's deciding what gets addressed in those meetings to just determine what's going on across?
Well, administration, we set the agenda, but
Okay.
they also come and I asked them, do you want to add anything to the agenda or something you want to talk about, something you're hearing, whatever that we need to discuss as a leadership group. So I set the initial agenda about things like we're talking about, me coming here tonight and other things that are just building wide. But we also talk about, you know, PD and things like that, so.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know, something's just not firing for me right now. So I guess my question is, do you share like the math interventionist between the two teams? So
All 4 teams, yeah.
all four share one?
Both grades, yeah. We have one math.
Okay, so they're all shared,
Math
and then
specialist.
academic intervention, so that's all shared?
Mhm.
Okay,
Reading as well.
and so, okay, so you're sharing all the interventionists, it's the 4 core, a special education teacher and an IA.
Correct.
But then the interventionists are shared, do they ever get time to come together?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? Narissa?
I know, balls in my court, right?
Thank you. The next item is the middle school CTE policy. Out of respect for the time of the middle school administrators, I would like to ask the committee's permission to move the CTE policy up on the agenda. I will turn this over to Principal McCray.
You're turning it back to Anna.
You can turn it back to
Anna.
me. You can turn
Okay.
it back to me. You just
Anna
wait
and
close
Mr.
by, okay, so we have recently developed the middle school pathway exploration policy.
The elementary principals don't need to stay. You're welcome to stay. But we'll do that, and then we'll do the competency determination graduation requirements, and then everyone can go. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that awkward. That was trying to be subtle. Anna, as you were.
Okay, okay. So the, now you made me lose my train of thought. So the goal of this policy is to ensure that all middle school students and families are informed of all of the opportunities related to career and technical education that are ahead of them. Aware of that, that they have the opportunity to explore programming at Whittier as well as the agricultural component at Essex Tech in addition to Triton High School. So this policy outlines how middle school students are made aware of those opportunities, and then also how they're connected to students' academic and career planning. So the goals are that all students are aware of the multiple pathways they have, including career and technical education options, that they engage in career-connected opportunities that begin at the middle school level, building connections between what their pathways in middle school and then their long-term academic plans or career plans or their personal goals. And that they're using MyCap, which is my career and academic plan process, to really guide their exploration and decision-making. So this policy outlines the, how students are, the opportunities are shared and made students aware of them, how they will have the opportunity to tour these schools, and how we maintain the records related mostly to communication and about when the tours are, about applications, about key dates and opportunities that students should be made aware of. It also, there's an appendix on here that includes the MyCap scope and sequence by grade level. So over the past couple of years, we've received some grant funding for the development of MyCap programming, and this documents actually what that programming is going to be and how it's implemented as well. Any questions?
And if I can just add, thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Anna presented this to the policy subcommittee about an hour and a half ago. Well, no, an hour and a half before this meeting. And they reviewed it, and as it's written here, the request, this was technically originally due November 1st. We got an extension to December 31st. The same is true for the graduation requirements and competency determination. We're going to request a first and final reading. These are largely boilerplate policies that need to be adopted, and perhaps the graduation requirement and CD more so than this. We just want to get a jump on putting these things into place. So the request is, and I believe it was recommended by the policy subcommittee, I don't want to put words, to approve it as a first and final reading, even though that's not your normal process.
And Triton has always supported students having tours and all that at Whittier and Essex already, so. And then we've already had the MyCap for a few years, so this is just, now we have a policy for it. So I want to thank the administration and school staff and teachers for being ahead of the curve again, just like at those workshops we go to, that Triton's always ahead of the curve. Does anybody have any questions on that, the policy?
So this is, I guess, a little bit less about the CTE policy language itself, although there is one amendment that we should probably make. Let me see if I can find it again. Hang on a second. On page 1, it says Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School, Vocational Technical School. It's a little repetitive, so that second phrase I think should probably be removed. It just says Vocational Technical School twice. But I guess my question is,
Can I just say it? I think what it's missing, similar to above, it's missing is
oh,
A.
is A?
Yeah,
Okay.
because the full title is Essex, their NSATS, Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School, is a vocational technical school located in Middleton, Mass.
Yeah. Their address is actually in Hathorne?
Say again?
In Hathorne?
Oh, in Hawthorne? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
maybe-
I mean, I just know that, like,
We can edit the address
I
too
don't-
to make that,
okay.
just kind of like Byfield doesn't really
right,
exist.
I know, right?
Anyone who lives in Byfield, I'm so sorry, I just said that out loud. Golly. Shut it.
This is maybe, I mean, I did my time on policy subcommittee, but it was only 1 year. Do we have a Triton tour policy? And if so, if not, I guess, where does kind of the Triton high school education process for middle school students fall within this framework?
Did you say a Triton tour, meaning middle schools? Yes.
I
So
did say that.
there is not a current policy, I don't believe. I'd have to look through the manual. It would not have anything to do with this, right? There is a sister requirement that the tech schools have to have. But that doesn't mean we can't have a policy that all middle schoolers, I mean, there's definitely been more and more things done over the years to get students into the high school. But if that's something we want to put on a future agenda to propose a policy that there's an official, we can certainly work on that.
I don't think I mean, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't have seen this as a policy we had to have either.
Nor would we. Nor would we.
Right?
Right? Fair.
But I almost think if one is formalized, then the other one should be formalized. And I mean, maybe it's a future discussion point, but I'd love to know like how this all fits together for students in 7th and 8th grade who are sort of considering their future choices.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, and maybe I'm editorializing too, if we are giving voice, audience to our technical schools, we should also be doing as much, if not more, for our middle school students to be part of, see.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're on the same campus, but I don't think there's a lot of awareness about you know, kind of what your options are or what goes on. So even having conversations with kids that were on the tour yesterday, 8th grade, went to Whittier, and they were saying, well, you know, like they do this. And I said, well, that, you know, like there are electives at the high school level too, like no matter where you go, whether it's a shop or whether it's, you know, whatever it is. And I think like there was a lot of blank looks as we were having that conversation, because it just that doesn't really, it exists more at the middle school level than it used to. But I don't think that there's a whole lot of awareness about how that's similar.
Fair. So the quick answer is no, it does not, but it can.
Maybe I'll defer that to Policy and Advocacy Subcommittee. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm the person to make that decision. It just feels like if one is there, then the other one should be too.
We can take that up at the policy committee. Does anybody else have any other questions on the CTE policy? Can I have a motion?
I'm going to do it as amended, knowing that we're adding those two. Who am I even looking at for policy anymore? I'm looking at Erin. I'm going to do it as amended, knowing that we're adding those couple words in to make that sentence make sense on that first page. I'll make a motion to approve the middle school CTE policy as amended as a first and final reading. Thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I'm not sure if Paul was
Yep. Paul, were you in favor?
Thank you for coming. The next item is the MSBA project update. Matt Landers, the chair of the building committee, will provide an update on the building project.
I feel awful that Brian hasn't spoke, so I'll hand it over to him. He can talk.
Unbelievable. I don't even know what to say to that. So we have, this past week, in September, the building committee elected a owner's project manager selection committee. That committee then is tasked with hiring, or hiring, literally, the OPM. So a contract will be signed off by the chief executive officer and chair and all that. So we did have interviews. The subcommittee had that, the selection committee had interviews on Monday. There were 8 submissions, shortlisted, ranked all the individual members, separately ranked the 8 proposals. We took the top 4. We have to interview the top at least 3. We interviewed the top 4. And then after the interviews, obviously spent a lot of time talking, and then we individually rank the 4 firms, and it's the score from the proposal review plus the score from the ranking from the interviews is a total score, and then we're bound by MSBA regulation to offer a contract to that firm. So we did have a pretty clear first choice. We have not shared that name publicly yet. It was public process, but we haven't shared that information publicly. Rich is in the process of conducting reference checks. So far, beyond glowing, I think is a fair assumption or a fair summary. And so now we are working on that contract. And so we'll rope in, include Matt and Jim as the chair and vice chair of the building committee, along with Rich and I, just to confirm what that final contract would be. It is entirely prescribed, and it's all within the budgets that we set when we approved that amount. So we were originally scheduled to have a building committee tomorrow night. There's no really time-sensitive information. We could have gathered to talk about the names publicly, but until we have a contract, I guess we want to make sure nothing falls apart, and we would end up going to our second candidate, but we're confident we'll have that and then be able to report that to the building committee in December. And then again, that would be proposed to the OPM Design Review Panel of the MSBA. We have to have that information, all of this, with a whole lot of paperwork that Rich has to do, an inordinate amount of paperwork. And then they put it all together for a panel on January 5th. So we should have an approved OPM by January, sign a contract the following week, and then we'll start on the process to select our designer under the direction of the OPM, and we expect to have that done by mid-April.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian? Or Matt? Who will then defer to you? If the committee doesn't mind, I'm going to also move up the policy IKF for grad requirements. The superintendent is going to talk about the proposed graduation requirement updates.
And the superintendent is going to sound an awful lot like Dr. Anna Bates again. Again, so you're seeing this again, and I said this in the policy subcommittee, about this is the last time, right, forgetting that there is now a state commission that wants to do further work on this. But what is being proposed tonight, we are going to ask that you, again, propose this as a first and final reading. Director of Guidance Megan Ober was at the policy subcommittee and certainly now trying to package this in a way so parents can understand. It doesn't impact a large number of students, but it is certainly something we want to get codified, and it's not something we expect to change, certainly for the class of 2026 and probably not the class of 2027. But I will hand it to Dr. Bates, who will probably ask Mr. Kelly to also share some information.
Yes, I'll just give you an overview of the changes, and then I'll let Patrick speak to the implementation and what this is going to look like for our students in the class of 2026. So the big change from our previous policy is that the competency determination must include completion of courses as well as mastery of those courses. So we have to have a measure of mastery in each of the MCAS tested subjects from 2024, and then with the addition of U.S. history beginning for the class of 2027. So this policy will outline those courses that can be taken to reflect completion, and then the options that students will have for demonstrating mastery in each one of those courses. It also includes some language related to support for English learners and students with disabilities. And then it outlines the appeals process, and then a process for transfer students or students who enroll at Triton after the start of their freshman year. So I'll turn it over to Patrick. Do you want to share about the implementation? Sure. Or what it will look like?
There we go. So for the class of 2026, I think this is the group that is most challenging currently because we have students that are in various stages of complete based on, for some, changing expectations where they hadn't previously completed a course and final exam for that course successfully. We have some students that have transferred to us as late as this senior year, whose statuses are different than, or courses that they took are different than what would be required by this policy or be required by the state. An example of this, we have a transcript we reviewed that had mythology as a sophomore English class. That doesn't match any of the courses that would be expected by the state. And so as we look at our students on a case-by-case basis, we've gone through for that group of students in the class of 2026 and identified, should this policy pass, which I think it would, but which students and families do we need to work with specifically because of their statuses in one course, in multiple courses, maybe because of courses that they transferred into Triton with, or courses that they've taken along the way and either passed the course but failed the final, or had another reason why something didn't happen along the way. So that class of 2026, we want to really start working with towards making sure every student has met a competency determination prior to getting to the end of the school year. And so for most of our students in the class of 2026. They've already met what would be the competency determination, but we do have about 10 students that, maybe 12 students that are with different sets of circumstances based on what their educational background has been between the start of high school and now. Going forward, for each of the grades, I think one of the things that I had spoken with Anna about sharing this evening is just looking at what those measures of competency will look like. So again, it's completion of coursework throughout the course of the year successfully. So for English, English 9, English 10, our science is biology, chemistry, physics, or chemistry or STE, sorry, not physics. Successfully. The math is Algebra 1, Geometry, or Algebra 2. And again, that's dependent on what level they come in at. And then for social studies, it is US History 1 or US History 2. Our English educators worked on developing finals for English 9 and English 10 that track almost a student's portfolio throughout the course of the year. The students during the course of the year are rating their performance and collecting evidence towards all of the various ELA standards for each of those grade levels. And then they are completing a writing assignment at the end of the year during the final exam time that matches up the evidence that they've collected towards each of the standards and demonstrating that mastery through writing. For each of these measures of competency, just as a secondary piece, you have to have an alternative measure should the student be unsuccessful on their first attempt. And so the English department also has a secondary standards-based assessment that would look specifically at writing standards, poetry standards, close reading standards that students would be completing should they be unsuccessful on their first attempt with their writing assignment that matches their writing and evidence towards standards throughout the course of the year. For our science department is currently working on developing their biology final end of year exam. This is what most of them actually have currently as their professional practice goal, is developing out that competency determination throughout the year to make sure that it matches both the standards that were developed throughout the curriculum, but also looking at what was in the MCAS previously and tested as part of that competency determination. We've been starting conversations around using some of the assessments that are included in the curriculum resources to make sure that those are a good starting place for matching up curriculum and standards and frameworks. The math department is utilizing for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 the end of year assessment that goes along with the Big Ideas curriculum that we just implemented. What they're doing is tailoring that, so they're taking a component of the or providing that end of year assessment and then tailoring it based on the level, either up or down. So for our students that are taking honors level classes, their final exam would have the competency determination and then other additional problems that would go along with that to show higher level of mastery based on the level of course that they're in. And so we wanted to make sure that they we're using the end of year assessments for Big Ideas because we're trying to track mastery towards that curriculum and our successful implementation of that curriculum. We want to make sure that it meets up with the competency determination, and so it's beneficial for us to have those already pre-coded with all the curricular standards. And then thirdly, especially for our kids that are in honors level classes in math, we want to make sure that there's an additional component where we can push and show mastery kind of beyond those standards as well. Our social studies department has been working on developing out an essay-based final that uses both the Common Core literacy standards that are implemented along with the social studies department, and then also looking at their own content level standards. for each U.S. History 1 and U.S. History 2. We're focused in primarily on U.S. History 1, so for a student to meet that competency determination benchmark, it can be done in either U.S. History 1 or U.S. History 2. We want to make sure that for just about all of our students, it's happening in U.S. History 1, but one of the secondary benefits of this is it's allowing us to focus more throughout the entirety of the sophomore and junior year experience on improving student writing. So I think one of the things that you'll hear from me in January is that we're looking at improving our writing as we specifically look at that ELA MCAS, and one of the places that we're looking to do it not just within the ELA curriculum, but is also within the social studies curriculum, and so having that be a more consistent component of what's expected in the class and building that towards the competency determination at the end of the year. The writing component that the social studies department is currently working on is focused as well on using kind of a document-based question style response where they're going to be giving students a series of resources that they're then going to be evaluating kind of a higher order thinking question about the American experience and using those resources to help them answer that question. So there'd be a whole kind of host of document analysis skills that are going along with that as well. That's the 4 different subject areas. Are there questions about the different types of assessments that are going to be included?
Sorry, we did talk to Anna because I'm on policy and advocacy, but I just want to clarify, when you're talking about the tests being made and then testing beyond, you're still considering giving one standard test for everybody that's in English 9 or everyone that's in?
Correct.
Okay, and then you're going to integrate additional
Questions beyond
that
Yep.
for, okay, but the standard is still going to be the same across the
Standard
board?
would still be the standard across the board. Yep, it's not a moving standard based on your level. The standard would be the standard.
Is there a particular spot where all of this will be codified? I know this policy is sort of the boilerplate DESE piece, but for students so that they'll know what the requirements are for each course since they're differing.
Yes.
Will it be the student handbook or a syllabus or?
Yep. And then we're already collecting those. So these are going to be common assessments across grade levels. It's not going to be a singular assessment based on the teacher. It's going to be common across grade levels and will be kind of consistent experiences year over year.
Does anybody have anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Making a motion to approve updated policy IKF, which includes both the graduation requirements and competency determination. Wow. As recommended by the Policy and Advocacy Subcommittee as a first and final reading.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? The monthly personnel report, the superintendent will go through the personnel report.
So I can go through it if you would like me to in detail, or just ask if you have any questions. I did not have a written report tonight. I assumed we were going to have lots of conversation about data and accountability and those other 2 things, so I didn't. I was trying to keep the meeting shorter, but so there's no written report. But unless there's anything specific, it's the usual. Any new hires, any transfers, and again, any documented retirements are bold and asterisked.
Does anybody have any discussion?
I make a motion to receive and file the monthly personnel report as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? FY27 preschool tuition rates. The superintendent's going to briefly go through the proposed changes to the preschool fee schedule for next year.
So, message received. So we are doing this early, right, ahead of the budget. We have preschool information nights coming up in January, right, and kindergarten info nights in February. This is an attempt to right-size but not overburden, right? So we have been having lots of discussions, whether it be with P&N through negotiations or finance subcommittee or listening to the hearings on the Chapter 70 listening tour, right? Everyone is expecting an incredibly challenging fiscal 27 budget process. We know already that we're expecting, the number on paper is $800 to $1 million just for health insurance increases if the trends pan out with what they're saying. So along those lines, we did some review to see where our preschool rates stacked up comparably in the region. And so with that, our goal is to certainly not make them overly burdensome, but also make sure that the program, which was, so when I took the seat in 2005, there was very little general fund being used to offset preschool costs. We had early childhood grants. We had a lot more other funding sources, and there was just a little bit that's charged to the general fund. At this point, about 40%, right, 45% is covered by fees, right? So 50+%. Yeah, 50+% is being funded by the general fund. So the budget, these are not compulsory programs, so they're not required programs. Unless we're talking about a student, they are integrated programs, so unless we're talking about a student on an IEP. So it is a fine balance. So when we bring this to you as a proposal, it is a fine balance of finding what is reasonable and what also makes sure that we get those students who we most need into the schools as quickly and as early and as young as we possibly can to start to get them the interventions and services, specifically if they're coming out of early intervention or other programming. So you have on the sheet the current fiscal 26 rate and then the fiscal 27 proposed. It's I won't read through it all, but it's a subtle increase in each of those categories. The largest increase, the categories being session 1, 2, and 3. So again, session 1, 2, or 3 are partial days, either 2-day AM, 3-day AM, or 4-day PM. And then session 4, we call it full day. It's actually 4.5 full days. And as a reminder, there's no tuition remission or offset for the full day program. So we provide a tuition assistance for sessions 1, 2, and 3. So session 4 has the largest increase from 7,500 up to 8,000. There are certainly programs with these adjusted rates. There are programs that will be more expensive than Triton. There will certainly be programs that are less expensive than Triton. Secondly, along with the tuition rates, is a proposal to shift from those who are free and reduced getting a 75% reduction of the tuition, so they pay 25% of the total tuition for sessions 1, 2, or 3, up to a 50-50 split. And then, again, we had previously offered a sibling discount, and that's a continuation to not offer a sibling discount. That's not a change. And again, just to note that that tuition assistance does not apply to session 4, which is the full day program. So.
But it is important to note that some kids who have the integrated preschool or they have a certain number of hours during the week of services, they still receive that discount for the full 4.5 or 5 day program. So it's not that everybody in that program is paying that full amount. So you have to keep that in mind as well.
So again, special education services cannot be charged for. So if they are in a full day program and receive a half hour of services, whatever services a day, that half hour per day is backed out of the tuition they would pay in any of those programs. Unless it's they need to be in a program. So if they're placed in a three-day-a-week AM program, they don't pay for the entirety of that program if it's a more global need.
So as of today's enrollments, that's 5, 10, like 22 kids that are enrolled in the half-day programs are completely free.
Does anybody have any questions?
If we had these rates this year, how much additional revenue would the preschool be bringing in?
Yeah, I mean, so we learned today, it's actually always a little bit of a back and forth, right? So kids, their IEPs change, and they might come off some of that, and they might have to pay a little bit more, or they might go on an IEP and they have to, or their services change and they might get a credit. But as of today, based on today's enrollment and those rates, we'd be looking at about $50,000 increased revenue. So, I mean, that's at least one IA, if not two.
We're currently estimating around 400,000. It depends on the year. It's around 400,000 in revenue. And the program is in excess.
Just under $1 million.
Just under $1 million.
So just a clarification first. I think this differs from what I'm seeing on the sheet. I heard you say that session 4 had the biggest increase, but it's actually session 3, I believe.
I did. I misspoke. That is correct.
Just want to make sure that that was, public, in case people are watching. And I think, I mean, Paul should probably speak for the subcommittee, but I think this was, recommended with regrets. I think a lot of the conversation was that no one wants to do this, especially in, the current day and age, but that, while there is a huge benefit to having many of our students in preschool here within our schools, it's also very difficult to have the general fund supporting a significant percentage of that program. So staying competent or competitive, I guess I should say, with area programs, or at least on par with them, I guess I should say, not even competitive. It's a hard thing to do, but we felt like we had to recommend this to the committee.
Can I add something?
Go for it.
So when we were doing the research, there are some local towns that they charge a $10 flat rate. And we ultimately landed at $8 an hour flat rate for the part-time program after kind of mathing that out. And when we looked at, if we apply a $10 rate to our programs as is, it was going to be an obscene jump, right? So at some point, we know we'll probably have to get there, but a little bit at a time, right? So we landed at that 8 and felt pretty confident bringing that to you as a suggestion.
And to speak to Narissa's point, this was not a new discussion in the committee. I mean, when I started on the finance committee, that was also a huge discussion, and it is with regrets. It was a hard discussion then, it's a hard discussion now, but we are, as Rich said, we are going to have to keep staying on par and be, I don't want to say competitive, but be on par with the area schools to keep the program running.
It is competitive, right? I mean, it's not a compulsory program, so it's tuition-based, and we have a waiting list in almost all of the sections, at least to start the year we did. We might not, yeah. In 2 of them now? Yeah. So, and like as Rich said, things ebb and flow throughout the year. But thank you for that correction. I'm glad you mentioned that, Narissa, because as Rich said, what this does is the jump from session 1 to 2 to 3 was minimal, and so this standardizes this at a flat hourly rate, which is a much better, more fair way to do it. And it did yield the largest result in session 3, the largest increase rather.
So to Narissa's point before, I don't think I can speak for the subcommittee because I think I differ somewhat personally. I can absolutely get behind the rate raises. It's the cut in the reduction for free and reduced that I bump on. Because that on the rate raises on top of the reduction comes out to jumps of near 100% for that. And that seems to me that the greatest pain lands on the people with the most difficulty. So I understand everything that everybody has said. I just can't get there.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Follow up on that question, how many people, how many students right now are getting that free and reduced lunch discount rate?
He's
16. And one thing that I was going to add is, again, right now, for the way that it currently stands, free or reduced lunch is in the same bucket. There's nothing that, we could always come up with free is 75 and reduced is 50. Just throwing it out there as an option, but nothing ties you to having them both be the same.
But the threshold is pretty tight.
Yeah.
On the free and reduced, it's not a huge
But if it
delta.
made you feel better.
Yep.
How many, do you know how many of each would be? How many are free and how many are reduced? I think that might be a better way to go, though, because, I don't know, you are really affecting the people that are most vulnerable, and that might be the deciding factor as to whether they come or not.
Is that, why is this so loud? Is that jump from 50 to 75% on par with other districts?
So that discount is not something that I saw advertised on any website or any other district page.
I wasn't involved this time. The last go-around we did this, we were unique, quite unique, in having any type of tuition remission whatsoever.
That might be so, but we've offered it, and we're going to affect people.
I think the end result comes down to the budget that we're facing this year, and I think no matter what we do this year, it's going to have an effect on a lot of families and students. And I think we just have to turn over every single rock and everything that we can do to see, especially for this program that people pay for anyway. And we need it to sustain itself and not take a big chunk of our general fund. Does anybody else have any other questions?
This is random, but in the jump in tuition, is it monthly, you make monthly payments over 10 months? So is that how this works? Would there be alternative payment plans offered to allow for like an extension so that it'd be lower impact, kind of spacing it out more?
I think we have people that do that anyway, so.
I didn't know if there was like a formal way to do it.
Already. So it's, for a session one, it's $174 a month. It's actually a little less because we take a $100 deposit up front. And it would go to $187 a month. So we do, I know, Rich have worked with Courtney in all kinds of creative payment plans that people need to pay weekly, or absolutely, we do anything and everything we can, for sure. Yep. And then generally, the way it's happened is until often students will be in preschool for 2 years, they can't register for the next year if they haven't paid off the prior year. So we've definitely had people pay over the course of the summer and catch up and everything.
Can I just share something about the Family Connections programming too, just a little? So an alternative, which is not the same as having a certified teacher in a pre-K classroom is we have had some great expansion of our Family Connections programming over the last 2 years. So we went from just covering Newburyport and the 3 Triton towns into the 3 Pentucket towns, plus Amesbury, plus Haverhill, which what it does is it opens up opportunities for families from the Triton communities to attend any of these groups. And they're all focused on school readiness skills right now. Our director of that, Sarah Houghton, is a early childhood educator and has done a really good job building some consistent curriculum that is being used and done some training with the staff. So we've had, just in the first 3 months of this year, have had 99 different 1 hour to 90-minute play groups operating. And so lots of other opportunities, and I know Molly and NSF always shares this with families too, that this is an option. Even if you're in a part-day class, you can participate in these as well. So just another opportunity, because I don't also like the idea of leaving families without options.
Another follow-up. The $50,000 that you said before would be the increased revenue. Is that taking into account the change in the free and reduced lunch tuition?
Yep, so that's taking the kids who are currently receiving a 75% discount and giving them a 50% discount off of the new rate.
Okay. So obviously which session those kids are in makes a big difference in what that is, but if it's 16 kids in that session 4, that change from 75 to 50% accounts for something like 32,000.
So it can't be session 4. There's no tuition assistance.
Okay, those are just in the, okay.
Just 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, gotcha.
Is there any other questions or concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026-2027 preschool tuition rates as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The next item is the FY26 Fall Adjusted Budget. Director of Finance and Operations, Dr. Richard Poor, is going to briefly talk through the amended budget.
So here's the question for you to cue this up. How much, right, Rich hasn't presented a adjusted budget to you. How much detail do you want tonight? So the Finance Committee dove deep, I think is a fair phrase, into all of the changes. And so how much, I know I get accused of talking too much, but I don't want Rich to get a reputation. So what level of detail do you want? Right? Do you want a quick flyover? Here's the quick changes?
30,000 feet.
I think what we need is just to, explain the change, that's all.
Okay.
And in our thing, we say briefly.
Yeah, I mean, so
you probably should have Rich do it rather than
Yeah, I'll do it, okay. So honestly, this adjusted budget, and I said this to the Finance Subcommittee, was probably a little bit more complex than what you've seen in the past.
Okay, so can I start by saying,
There you go.
right, there has never...
Rich has the floor.
Rich, there has never been an adjusted budget this complicated, right? There has never been a budget that changed so much. We, for the first time in my 20 years, you approved a budget with a $350,000 deficit that we had to close. And so he did yeoman's work closing that and figuring out how this was all going to play out.
Thank you. All right, so yes, so we thankfully had a lot of space built in our salary lines. Over the course of the years, people moving from one position to another, departing the district, maybe we didn't backfill that position. Those funds were never kind of reallocated, moved around in the budget itself. So once we got the new revenue in for the Chapter 70 funding, we know that basically the top line of our budget goes up, the revenue goes up. but we had to close that gap of 350,000 or whatever it was. So between that additional revenue and then being able to find out where everybody belongs in terms of which line they should be paid out of, we're able to identify where those surpluses were and then move them to the areas of the budget that we had a deficit in order to balance it out. So hopefully next year, and I'm cross my fingers on this, I think we'll be in good shape, that it will just be a very simple moving some salary lines around to adjust for column movements and, you know, new contracts, that sort of thing. But this year, between that $350,000 gap, and it was really more than that because then we also found that we had under budgeted for heating fuel by $200,000. So, you know, that was money that thankfully we had kind of baked in there. It's just noted as being in the right place. And then obviously, many of you know that we've also recently upgraded our Infinite Vision software, which also brought on a human resources component that we don't currently have. And I know Deborah's been with Julie for hours and hours and hours learning how to use these programs so that we can streamline some of our processes around HR and payroll and just get a lot tighter in doing this. I know Brian gave me the personnel sheet that he had when he was in this position, and we spent a lot of time this summer bringing it back to life. I think Julie sees it in her sleep at this point. But going forward, that will be in Infinite Visions. It will live in there. Everything will be nice and tight. But bottom line is the budget technically increases, the expenditures increase, but the assessments of the towns remains the same.
Just a reminder that after your vote, this gets recertified to the town, so they get it. They have 45 days to hold a town meeting if they wanted to fight it. Obviously, they don't.
Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Paul.
I just have sort of a silly question about a typo, but on the first page of the narrative, there's underlined language. Some is in bold, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the underlined, it's not bold. And it says, unchanged from the final budget produced in March of 2026.
I should probably put my time machine away.
Yeah. March of 25.
March of 25.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 fall adjusted operating and capital budget as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And Richard, continuing on with revolving account closures?
Sure. So the memo is in there. We have a number of revolving accounts that they've been sitting there for a while, either programs that have ceased, grants that have stopped coming in, or things such as full-day kindergarten, which is free for everybody at this point, so no need for a revolving account on that. So in each category, I've noted the fund, the balance, why it is no longer needed, and then a recommended action. The most significant one is the high school athletics fundraising, and this is being done by the recommendation of our auditor.
Does anybody have any?
So can you just spell out what that recommendation was of the auditor, what the discussion was?
Yeah, so basically, and I don't really know the history of why this happened. Do you want to give the history and then I'll jump in with the rest of it?
So student activity accounts are the money that a principal has the authority holding on behalf of the students, right? So it's at the elementaries, it's minimal. At the high school, obviously, every club, every team has an account. So it's over the last 15 years, it's gone through iterations of, it was a loose checkbook that principals could write checks out of, and There were a lot of people that got in trouble. We never had that issue, but there were many kind of some famous examples of things going badly. And so there was a push to streamline that, pull it all into the general ledger, right, into the main chart of accounts. And there was a recommendation from a prior auditor to put it into a revolving account so that it was not managed in the general fund, right, the budget that you approve, but it wasn't managed in the separate, it's an agency account. So that was a prior auditor that said, do it this way. And then the current auditor has been saying for a while, we probably should pull that back apart. And so now we've had an audit at the high school, obviously the most complex one. And so what they're saying is you move that money back into the student activity account holds the money as long as the students are in charge of it. If it's a booster group, if it's the football boosters, they're a 501c3, they hold their own money, none of that comes to us because they make the decision. If we're holding on to the money in our agency student activity account, it has to be the students, the advisor, and the coach making the decision about how to spend that. It can't be. So a lot of this had to do with boosters didn't want to hold the money because they weren't a 501c3, but they wanted to control it. So it's been kind of a push and pull really over the last 5 to 10 years. And so the put it into a central account was an attempt to do that. And now it's being pushed back to say it's in a student activity account. It's under the student's control. It's under the team and the coach's control. And then if a booster wants to do it, they have to go be part of a 501c3 or establish their 501c3.
So basically, the high school has pretty detailed records of these funds, and essentially, if, let's say, the $10,000 of this belongs to the girls' soccer team, that would go into a student activity fund for the girls' soccer team, much like money raised by the United Nations Club would go into an account for them. And they can use it as they need, as long as it follows school committee policy and they have the principal's decision.
So that
I do have a question just on that spot right there. So say if it was money that was brought in, handed in by the boosters for the girls' soccer team because they're not a 501c3, you're gonna put it into an account a decision can be made by either the team or the coach, or they can do a 501c3 and take it out?
No, we cannot give money back to boosters. So that money at this point, if it says that belongs to the soccer team, it belongs to the soccer team. It doesn't matter if parents put it in or if somebody put it in, we can't.
So historically, when this was happening, when the account was being created, they had that opportunity. But now that it became that it's district funds, now it has to be spent at the behest of the students in that activity.
So the students or the coach? Because the students and the coach might have drastically different ideas about what that fundraising money should go to.
Yeah, technically it's the students, but I mean, at this point, it has to be under the direction of the coach, and obviously the principal gets involved in all of that as well. Yeah, but it can't be the boosters. And the majority of the money had been moved out, right? The majority, so that $16,652.40 is the aggregate amount for all of the clubs and groups at the high school. And it's small potatoes going, it's 15,000 going to one club and it's bits and pieces going into all the various accounts, like Rich said, very detailed records. The majority of the groups had dealt with the money and already had an opportunity to take it back and establish. Yeah.
So I want to go back to my question, and that was about the discussion with the auditor. Was this a new auditor inside of a big company, or?
So the suggestion to create this account that we're now closing was a former auditing firm.
So we've switched from one auditing firm to another?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just going backward, just going backwards, let's say the students and the coach are at an impasse, the principal gets involved. So is there you are dealing with money, possibly large amounts, if there is an issue,
Dispute.
there is a way forward to,
Yeah,
because you're
so-
saying technically it's student choice, or team, like the
Yeah, I mean, so-
team choice.
Yeah, so it,
But if they're not on the same page, is there a way in which to remedy that without like a huge?
yeah, I mean, so take athletics out of the equation, right? It's the same the same process for the athletics. It's, again, Model United Nations, class of 2026, whatever it is, it's the same process. The principal ultimately has to agree that those funds are going to be expended, but then it still comes to me after that. So there are steps that can be taken if there's a disagreement between adults and students. That said, like the superintendent said, we just had our audit. We started at the high school for a reason. It's the biggest animal when it comes to student activities. And Tara has done a really great job trying to clean that up over the past couple of years. And we definitely have some areas that I think we're gonna grow in. We're definitely gonna look at getting all of this into Infinite Vision so that it's really well tracked in there and it's real time. And then also getting together a guide for basically standard operating procedures of how we do student activity funds that follows the policy that is already in the policy manual. Should get at what you're saying.
And I
Right
know-
now, there is not a formal process.
And I know we talked about this because it came up in a conversation, but maybe some training throughout the district for students and families, because it is a shift.
Yep.
And between like boosters and student activities, it's making it a more defined line, which is great because accounting needs to be clean.
Yeah.
But just maybe offering some training to boosters so they understand their role, and then to the coaches and students, they understand their role, which should help with the rest of it
I
moving
mean,
forward.
even outside of athletics, again.
I know, I'm going to say
class-
all
Class
groups.
of 2025,
Yeah,
right?
all
They
classes.
graduate, and that already happened, never mind, class of 2026. They graduate, and per your policy, they have 2 years to come and claim their money. And if they don't claim it, it essentially goes back into the general agency fund. So teaching the students that they have the ability to, when they graduate, create their own organization, come with their papers and say, hey, we formed this organization, can we have our money to start our alumni organization? Getting that out to the students is important as well. So it's.
Sorry, I always use athletics because it's cleaner, but yes, all student
Yeah,
activities.
athletics just
and-
keeps going.
I know,
right?
I'm sorry, I'll switch it, but I agree, I just
But
would
yeah.
like to see, because there's a lot of miscommunication
Think
at
training
every
on-
level from elementary right on up about how to use these funds, where they come from, what's appropriate. And
Ideally,
So
we-
just a little help.
Ideally, we will start a fund at each school when the kids come into kindergarten, and that will follow them up until they get to the middle school, and then that will follow them to the middle school, and then that will follow them to the high school, and then they'll be able to do what they need to do. Sports a little bit different. It will remain in there until that team no longer exists. But yes, training all around. It's on the to-do list.
I know that in our subcommittee discussion, like, eliminating the unused revolving accounts was, I think, felt like what was prompting this discussion. But everything that Rich just said about cleaning up the student activities accounts and codifying how that is done, and having a process and I'd say an increased transparency actually seems to me the bigger benefit of all of this.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the closures of the various revolving accounts as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee and presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? The next item is the subcommittee reports, policy and advocacy. Erin?
So the Policy and Advocacy Committee met today. We actually had a preview of the graduation requirements and the CTE middle school policy. And we actually asked a lot more questions than this group did to get more information, so it kind of surprised me a little bit. Then we moved on to talking about the communications planning. So we do have 3 different firms lined up to come in to talk to the committee about their different possibilities and proposals for being able to do a communications plan coming up in December. And then we also took a look at parts of Section G for the policy review today. Our next meeting, we are not going to meet in December, and we're actually going to push the meeting into January. We're on schedule and on track to get through our policy review right now, so we are going to take the December and push it off.
Thank you, Erin. Personnel and negotiations, Matthew.
We met on the 5th and 6th with the teachers and the IAs, and we are meeting Friday remotely.
Thank you, Matt. Finance, Paul Mayette.
We met on October 30th. We talked about preschool tuition rates, the fall adjusted budget, and revolving account closures. And I think it would be a good moment to say thank you to Rich and everybody for the amount when we really dug into that and some of the details of what was required to get us there. It's impressive work. We meet again tomorrow. Yeah.
Don't have much for you.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for your time, effort, and everything that we do here. It takes a village. I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Other than welcome, Owen. We'll see you at the next meeting. All those in favor? Have a nice evening.